Hi everyone. Today we've entered the third day of our lockdown, and I hope all of you have found some creative and self-healing ways of keeping yourself engaged at home. Now, to continue from the previous video, today I'm going to talk about what, in my opinion, is the second contributing factor towards false rape cases in our country. Before I jump into that, I want to take some time to talk about the false narrative of good women. I know I mentioned this in every single video of mine. I know that I explicitly speak about this in all my workshops, but that is because this is one of the most important parts of rape culture. So what this false narrative of good women does is creates this ideology that a woman's value only lies in her sexual virtue. We've seen this across the country. We've seen this in all the stories we've heard, in films we watch, and I'm sure we've also experienced this in our day-to-day life about how much value we place on a woman's virginity. Just the other day, I was reading these matrimonial ads, and one of the ads explicitly stated that they're looking for a girl who's a virgin. So we do place a lot of value on a woman's virginity. Now, what this does is this teaches women, or it teaches girls while growing up, that they are only allowed to engage in sexual activities within the bounds of marriage, or if they do engage in sexual activity with a boy, it should lead to marriage. Otherwise, the women are left unworthy of respect because they've stepped out of the good or the false code of good women. Right? Now, this ideology that a woman engaging in sexual activity outside of marriage is not worthy of respect puts both men and women in a vulnerable situation. Right? How does it put women in the vulnerable situation? It's pretty easy to understand because we've seen this. This is part of our law. The section 90 of IPC states that if a man uses deceit or misconception to get a woman's consent for sexual activity, it will amount to rape. A lot of people think this law should not exist, but this law is extremely essential because if you really go down into reading the actual cases, you'll realize that a lot of men sometimes even sexually abuse a woman and then stop her from complaining by using or giving a false promise of marriage. We've also seen cases where a man who's actually married pretends to be single and then uses the false promise of marriage to engage in sexual activities with other women. So this does happen a lot. However, today I want to talk about the false rape cases. So talking about how this ideology leaves men vulnerable. What happens in a lot of cases is that women misuse this law. When two people are engaged in a consensual relationship, of course, which entails consensual sexual relationship, and what happens when a relationship like this is ended by one of the partners, specifically the man, the female not only feels heartbreak, but she is deeply driven by this ideology that now that she has engaged in sexual relationships with a man, which is not going to lead to marriage, she has rendered herself unworthy of respect that only a woman who conforms to the code of good women is worthy of. Right? So a lot of women, when they accuse men that they have been in consensual relationships for rape, just because the man has ended the consensual relationship, it does not necessarily come from a place of heartbreak, but it more so comes from a place of this deeply rooted ideology that makes them feel that they are now rendered unworthy of respect. So to be able to end or at least reduce the number of these false cases, these false cases driven out of consensual relationships ended by the male partner, we don't need legal reform. What we need is social and cultural reform. We need to redefine the code of good women. We need to make women feel that they are worthy of respect when they execute their sexual autonomy, when they execute their sexual right. Any woman, even when she engages in sexual activities outside of marriage, as long as it's consensual, is worthy of respect just as much as a woman who may conform to the code of good woman. Right? Only by undoing this false narrative, only by redefining this code of good woman and understanding that every single woman is worthy of respect and worthy of executing her sexual autonomy, can we actually make sure that a woman does not hold a grudge or does not seek revenge from a man for executing his sexual autonomy. So we need to undo this. It's extremely essential, not just for the women, even for the men. A society that holds, gives equal respect and gives equal rights to every single individual, irrespective of their gender, is a necessity for all of us. and that's the only way we will be able to reduce these false rape cases. So think about this as well, and just like before, if you guys have any questions or any thoughts or feedback, please you can DM me, or you can also email me on contact@sridhan.in. I will mention the email address below, and for more inputs on what a woman's laws are and what is this ideology or this false narrative of good women, follow us Sridhan India on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Thank you so much, and take care of yourselves.